What's up, bro?
How you doing, Anarchiosis?
Doing good. My ears are bleeding after that wonderful conversation about, power grids and electricity.
They're bleeding? Why? What's wrong? You didn't like that?
No, well, no, it's fine. No, I agree with you. Nuclear energy is definitely the way to go. I was sitting here looking up stats and stuff, and the first link that comes up is a government site, ironically, saying that nuclear power is it's the way to go. I mean, it says what is it?
Mm-hmm.
It has the highest capacity factor, over 90%, and there's all kinds of different stats that basically say, it's the most renewable path, it's the most efficient path, both land and energy usage. There's just a lot of wins that are going into nuclear.
Well, you came in here with your own debate. What do you got for me?
Yo. So first of all, I finished your book. So
you finished it.
That's cool. Oh yeah, I finished it.
So you are not convinced. You're not convinced, I'm assuming.
It was an interesting book.
Okay.
It hasn't made me a Keynesian, I'll say that.
Okay, all right. It turned me Keynesian. I was like, holy crap, dude. They literally addressed every single one of the points that I would have made. Fancy friend Francis. I do not have a book. It's we're referring
he doesn't have a
to
book.
a book that's called
Austerity.
called Austerity by Mark Blyth. Anyway, Go ahead. Tell me.
You're my book daddy. You give me the free books. So basically, the idea of austerity, as Mark Blyth says, is it's interesting because he sees austerity as a form of policies that are supposed to reduce government debt by cutting public spending and increasing taxes, which, it's interesting. I think he sees austerity as a form of Austrian economic policies or something like that, which they kind of are. But it's interesting. And throughout the book, he basically gives all these examples, historical examples of the banking crisis of 2008 and different things in European countries, different examples, stuff like this of banking. And he's very much against, correct me if I'm wrong, he's very much against bailing out banks, which is a libertarian viewpoint, by the way. We're also against.
It was interesting. At the beginning and towards the middle, all the way, even towards the end, he was okay, with the idea of bailing out the banks. And then, towards the end, he kind of alluded to the fact that he was not interested in bailing out the banks. He wasn't sure if it was the right call, is basically what he left off at.
Yeah, and he was very much, he was kind of going back and forth between the ideas. And at many points, I couldn't tell what his view was, because he kept saying okay, these austerity policies are good, these austerity policies are bad. And he has an overall view of austerity just not being a good idea, generally speaking. But yeah, he does mainly go with the Keynesian view. But I'm more interested in seeing, I guess, maybe it's just how my brain operates, but I like seeing more ground level examples where I can see it being constructed. He sort of just took certain case studies, and then within those case studies, he deconstructed why he thinks certain things happen the way they did, and he outlines basically the events that happen.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely
did you find
a good
an issue
history
with
book.
his arguments? You found it to be bad, or I don't.
Yeah. Well, so we already talked about this, but I think trying to, control for variables in macroeconomic environments is a very difficult task, because you have to know the history of certain events. You have to know why certain policies
we do
create
that all the time,
certain
though.
events.
And not only that, we also have
but not
computer
accurately.
economic models. There's a level of inaccuracy, but that doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. Or you just say it's hopeless and don't even try. That's kind of the problem with a lot of Austrians, is that they just sit there and they just have their overall theory, and they don't want to challenge that theory or try to come up with any mathematical system that could potentially be falsified. And so it's impossible to actually operate at an academic level with an Austrian. Do you understand the issue?
Actually, I think that Austrians can make models at the base level, and I don't think Keynesians can do that. So I think
What
Austrians can
Keynesians do it all the
accurately.
time. What do you mean? What do you think what do you think global domestic product is? Is that just that was a Keynesian concept?
Global domestic what?
GDP.
Oh yeah, GDP. I mean, like, yeah, GDP exists, but like, it's hard to tell. Like, yes, we know when we know GDP is a very simple model, but it also, I guess, it doesn't like tell us the specifics
Well,
of
there are
certain
more
things. Like, it
complex
tells us that we
models.
spend.
There are more. I'm
Yeah,
just
I mean,
giving
it
an
tells us we
example.
spend
This is
money
just
and
one.
then we make money, but
Yeah.
that's a very like simple model because it's I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very simple because it's like money out.
Well,
That's
it gives
basically
you
what GDP is.
an
So
output.
it's pretty
It
simple.
gives you
But
an output. It's like,
yeah,
all right, this is our
yeah.
current GDP. You know, it doesn't account
But
for
causes and effects are a lot more
disparity.
complicated.
Okay, so but do
But
you
I didn't come
understand
here
that
to
like you could do
argue
a study?
Austrian
All
economics
right,
with
go
you.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Fine, fine.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. So I did my warlord video, but I'll let you finish that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun. But I'm actually more interested in getting into the ethics, if you want to do that, because, you know, we've been arguing about, you know, politics and economics for a while, but I am definitely more interested because my, what would you say? My wheelhouse is more like philosophy. Like
Okay.
that's where I started. That's like my favorite subject. And I'm interested in understanding your viewpoint better of like ethics, possibly meta ethics if you want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm much more interested in I guess deeper base layer type stuff.
Okay.
So I mean, if you want, I can just I'm gonna ask you what your ethics are, and then I guess I want to ask because we talked about this a little bit before. Your ethics has something to do with entropy and the idea that your morality is derived somehow from I forget if it has something to do with evolution, but do you want to go ahead and tell me about that?
Morality is derived off of survival.
Okay, so practical morality, basically.
I mean, it's just like where I believe all morality stems from. Like it is all predicated off of that. Like for example, you have to ask yourself, why do we have why is there, for example, religious systems? You know, really what it is that it's a concept that's stemming from tribalism that really was just predicated on like when we worked together, we tended to survive better, and so it would be survival. That's so like every single religious like reason why we do something, like the ritualistic things and the moral systems that we create off of that, it's entirely based on that. That's just one example. You with me?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I
Okay.
don't disagree with that at all. So the way I see it is morality has two ways it can go. And this is sort of the ongoing debate in philosophy is morality practically good or is it intrinsically good? And or sorry, useful. Is it like intrinsic? Is it intrinsic or is it practical? And what we mean by this is there something that we don't quite understand that it is good because it is intrinsically good, meaning the good is within the action. Now, we don't fully understand what goodness is, what wrongness is, what evil and goodness is. We don't understand these things. And objective moralists would essentially have the position that there are these objective truths about morality, but on the other hand, there would be people which I would consider maybe anti-realists, such as which I think you are and which I am, which is we only see morality as we don't see enough evidence for objective morality. And what we see as
There is
morality
objective
being
morality. It's just not true. Objective morality is false.
because there's no evidence for it, right?
Well,
Because
no,
you would
because
believe it if there was evidence for it.
The definition of objective just means it's not up to human interpretation. And the fact that there can be people that just disagree about what the rule ought be, that means it's up to human interpretation. I mean, I can even take the most insane things ever, you know, and there will be somebody in history that will have justified it.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, so basically you see morality as practical, meaning it's for your benefit, right?
Well, it's
It's for our
everybody's
benefit.
benefits, but sure.
Yeah. Okay. So your ethical system is essentially, tell me if I'm mistaken, is your ethical system that whatever is best for your survival is ethical?
Whatever is best for my survival is ethical. No, because like I mean, there's other people's survival that's also incurred there. Yeah.
Okay, so your morality is that what is ethical is what's best for everyone's
Well,
survival.
there's a bit of a caveat there, mostly because I've observed that societies that respect the rights of rights of individuals tend to be better off societies. Like people survive better as a result, and so the end result is that we tend to not go in the realm of I guess a collective good, right? Because I could see the cliff, right, of like a collective good. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could justify all sorts of atrocious actions should you know that you save, 51% of the people, for example.
Okay. I understand. I wanted to talk about egoism, but for a moment, I just want to go a little bit deeper. Would you say, tell me if you disagree with the fact that you live because of pleasure?
No, I don't believe that I live because of pleasure. No.
Why do you live?
There's no
Why do
why.
you live?
There's no why.
What the hell do you mean there's no why?
The universe doesn't owe you a why.
No, the universe doesn't owe you anything.
Correct. It's not an anthropomorphic entity, so you're attributing a why to something that is not anthropomorphic. It's a nonsense question. You're asking the rock,
Do you believe
why?
in
Why are
do you
you
believe
rock?
in the do you believe
No.
in the principle of sufficient reason, meaning everything has a purpose?
Well, no. I think that there's lots of
The law
things
of
that just don't
causality?
exist have no purpose whatsoever.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna have to disagree here. I mean, you agree with the law of causality, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the law of causality is essentially, everything has a cause.
Yeah, everything
But
caused
so
by something prior. Yes.
this is a conversation topic for another time. But I have like sort of bridged the gap between the law of causality and the principle of sufficient reason. It's really not that hard to cross. But essentially, what that means is everything has a reason or purpose. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a spiritual purpose or anything like that. For example, the reason you exist is because of billions of factors before you. Okay, in a deterministic way. I don't think you would disagree with that. You were caused by something else, right? And that means that
Right.
you have a reason, and your reason is that
No.
you were caused by this
No.
thing, and this thing is your reason.
Nope. You're attributing
Okay,
reason to something that's not anthropomorphic. You're doing it again.
what do you? So I think what we're coming into is like a disagreement on the
Ask
definition of
yourself
reason.
to the rock, why am I here? Does that sound like a sensible question to ask a rock?
Just because a rock doesn't know the answer doesn't mean it doesn't have a reason, right?
Is the rock conscious?
No.
Okay. But what if I made the
But it
rock
was-
bigger? Hey, mountain, why am I here?
The mountain was caused by something.
No. I'm asking, not the rock, but now the mountain. Why am I here? I understand the mountain is caused by something, and that's a how, not a why. But let's go ahead and ask the mountain, why am I here? Is that a sensible question to ask a mountain?
No.
Okay, let's make it bigger. Hey, Earth, why am I here? Is that a sensible question to ask the Earth?
No.
Hey, universe, why am I here? Is that a
I get your
sensible
point.
question to ask the universe?
I get your point.
Okay. And then we go to the last one. Hey, cosmos. That would be beyond space-time as well. Why am I here? I invoke no anthropomorphism. We're just simply here. You see the issue? There
We
is no
are
why.
here, but What, you sound like Yoda, bro.
No, I'm just pointing out there is no why. It
Listen,
makes
there's a
perfect
cause.
sense.
There is.
No,
So
we would
okay,
like there to be a cause because we are immensely conscious ape creatures that desperately want to find purpose because of our immense consciousness. However, the universe doesn't know, nor does it care about our immense consciousness. We're just sitting there racking our own brain over a thing that isn't owed or given.
yeah,
That's
I
the
don't disagree with
reality.
you here. I think we need to. I probably started too broadly, and my whole point is that man acts purposefully, and I don't know if I don't think you can disagree with this, but the first law of praxeology, which I know you don't like praxeology, or maybe you do, I don't know, but the first law of praxeology is that man acts purposefully, meaning everything you do is an action and it's done purposefully. So there's nothing you can't do that's not purposeful, basically. Right? Would you disagree with that?
No, I think you could do all sorts of pointless crap and it's nothing.
Give me one example.
We're doing it right now.
My point is everything you do is some sort of reaction or some sort of
But
there's some
wait,
sort of
like,
reason you
why
do
are we
something.
doing this?
Are we debating?
Yeah,
Well, I know why I'm doing it. I don't know if you do.
go ahead.
I'm doing it because I believe that this has something fundamentally to do with the purpose of life. And I don't know if you believe in purpose, but to me, interacting with
No, I
people
don't.
is a
Not at
fundamental
all.
purpose for life. And I don't know what that means exactly, but I just know that it somehow has to do with people. So that's why I do this. That's why I talk to people.
See, like,
But so
for
the
me, like, I would be a more of an optimistic nihilist. I know that sounds like a bit of a misnomer, but it really does make sense in the sense that there is no purpose, but it's kind of cool we're here. And aren't the patterns cool? Doesn't it excite your ape brain chemicals? It's cool. It's kind of cool. I like it.
I agree with you logically that nihilism is the what would you say, the end result of logic, because it's just true that depending on your goals, you wouldn't say that, like, you have goals in life, right? You can call it whatever you want, reason, goals, but there's a reason that you keep moving forward. There's a reason you don't self-delete, and that's what I'm trying to get at. You act with reason. You
Well, no,
have
I
some
just
sort of
enjoy. I
goal you're
just
trying to achieve.
it makes my ape brain chemicals excited. I enjoy it. That's what it
Okay,
is.
so
That's why I don't self
wouldn't
delete.
that be wouldn't that be pleasure then?
No, no. I
You
think
literally
there's
just
a
described
well.
a
It could
neurochemical
no.
reaction.
I think it's probably more appropriate to call it satisfaction. It's probably better because I think there's lots of things that you do that don't necessarily bring you happiness, but it does leave you more satisfied. Like a good example is like maybe you value the concept of family, but in the aspect of like valuing the unity of family, you got to deal with your stepmom, and you don't really like your stepmom all that much, but you value the concept of family, so you just kind of chug through it, right? And it's like you didn't enjoy that, but you know you are more satisfied in knowing that existence. So it doesn't really require like a hedonistic outcome.
Yeah. And that I think that all goes just to say, which is why I think you can logically prove egoism, is that this axiom that I found out, which is the self does what the self wants. And I've realized that there's no rebuttal, there's no negation to this axiom. It's just true. There's simply no way around of not doing what you want to do given your set of circumstances. And that's why I see that egoism is a compelling psychological profiling of each human being. We all do what we want to do. Do you agree with that?
That went way over my head. You're gonna have to repeat it.
The self does what the self wants.
The self does what the self wants. It appears to be that way, but sometimes you do things that you don't want to do, but you do it anyway.
For example,
Haven't you ever had to do like a chore that you don't want to do? Like, what?
yeah. So, like, for example, I do chores. I wash dishes, washing dishes isn't that bad. A lot of people like you can put on a podcast and wash dishes. And it's pretty chill.
Well, yeah,
But
I get it. I'm just pointing out that sometimes you do things that you don't want to do.
yeah, I know.
Like sometimes you don't
I
want to
agree
go to
with you.
college. Sometimes you don't want to like go to your work. Sometimes, but
Yes,
it is what it is.
this is all true, but
What's your issue?
we have to take into account everything, not just short-term goals. We have to take into short-term and long-term goals. So why do people go to the gym? People don't go to the gym because they're
This is some
masochists.
long-term
People go to
benefit.
the gym because they want the long-term benefit. Exactly.
Or you,
People
or
eat
you could
lettuce
just, or you could
because
just
they
be
want the
like me and
long-term
just see
benefit.
no gains whatsoever for years, and
No
you still go.
Damn. Oh, it sucks, bro. I
Well,
believe in you. You're looking good. You're looking real nice and thin on
a
that.
little
Yeah,
bit.
there we go.
Got a little bit.
Oh
but
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's 3 years. That took forever. That took forever, bro. And I swear,
No, them some
everybody's
gains.
gonna tell me they're gonna be like, oh, you need a diet. You need to, change your fucking protein. I don't know, whatever. Who cares?
So true. But I think, yeah, this is the point, which is you have a stronger preference to be healthy than to enjoy, say, like a Big Mac in that moment.
Oh no,
it's
no.
gonna,
I
it's
have
gonna
my
be.
cheat days, bro. Listen.
Oh damn.
Listen. I will eat. I will slam a freaking Big Mac, bro. I will slam two of those bad boys.
And you're wondering where those gains went.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you see my point? The self does what the self wants. While it's true, you have what is it called? A ordinal. You have a list of preferences. You have a list of things that you want. And you have a ranking of those wants. And you will always do the thing that you want to do most. And this is true in every single situation. And this is why everyone is an egoist. Because everyone does what their preferences. They act according to their preferences, basically.
Okay.
And I think this is a good thing for people to realize that they're all egoists, meaning everybody's selfish. But I think selfishness has a stigma to it that is always negative. But I don't think
I'm
that's
not necessarily
necessarily
against
true.
selfishness. Don't worry. I read my Ayn Rand. I know.
Yeah, rational self-interest, baby.
Yeah, like
okay.
I understand, but like there's a limit to it. Like obviously, like you don't think that any level of altruism is appropriate? Are you with Ayn Rand on that? I mean, I completely disagree with that.
So there's the question of what is and what should be. And I don't think that altruism exists at all. Also,
What?
altruism, because you always do what you prefer to do, right?
No. No, there are lots
don't?
of people that do things entirely for the self-interest of others.
Because they want to, right? Yep, exactly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying that they're wanting to at the end. What if like, because I've seen people literally like break themselves down into like suffering, and you have to physically pull them away from helping people because they're like destroying themselves trying to help people. Have you ever seen that?
No, I've never seen that.
You've never seen that? I've seen that many times.
I don't get out much, bro. Come on, you know this. But yeah, no. So listen, in that situation, in that extreme situation, I think that person, yeah, I know. Get your giggles in. Get your
it's just,
good
I'm
giggles
sorry.
in,
Listen, I know
and
it
then get your
seems like
gains in
I'm
afterwards.
I know it seems like I'm condescending, but like, it's funny. Okay, what do you want?
No, I know it's funny. But yeah, I think that this is, an example of some people. There are some people who are like super empathetic and like to the point where it pains them, like it makes their life a living hell, and that definitely sucks. I don't disagree that sucks, but
they usually.
But yeah, but also like on the flip side, that can also be a super positive thing to to experience. But I would say even
that's
in
a
that
level
case,
of altruism, don't you think? Like, there's lots of people in life who lived an altruistic life, and they go down in history as some of the most liked people. Like I guess like this idea that altruism can't exist is just that's just silly. Come on.
I'll tell you what. I will surrender this case to you. I will give you this case if you admit that altruism exists within an egoistic framework. meaning you can be
I don't know
altruistic
what you
within
mean by
egoism.
egoistic framework. That doesn't make sense to me.
Meaning the reason that you are altruistic is because you want to be an altruist. And you would never be an altruist if you didn't want to be an altruist.
No, I disagree. There's lots of people that have to be altruistic outside of their will. Like being a parent.
Okay, but again, it's the same thing here. Like the parent cares more about their kid than themselves.
Wait, hold on. I think I actually just killed your entire argument.
Okay, let's hear it.
The parent thing. It is okay. Is it within a rational self-interest to abandon the children? Can that be within a rational self-interest?
Doesn't that depend on the interest?
I'm asking you, can it? Is it possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay, and so a person through their rational self-interest abandons the child or their children. You don't see any issue with this.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Do you see any issue with this?
Like in the issue against this would be a case where somebody's acting altruistic?
No, I'm giving you the exact opposite. Your best case scenario where people aren't using their altruism, but instead they're operating under a basis of their own rational self-interest. You said it is possible for a parent to rationally self-interest themselves into abandoning children. So my question to you is this: do you see any issue with that?
Do you mean like a moral issue with
that? Yeah.
I don't believe in morality, neither do you.
What? Yes, we do.
What? We do? This is news to me.
I do.
Wait,
I don't know about
you.
Believe? Let me ask you this. Why?
Bro, tell me the answers
is
to
it
morality.
Wrong or is it right? Is it wrong or is it right? Abandoning your children for your rational self-interest. Is it wrong or is it right?
I don't believe that that's a truth-apt statement.
What? That is super obvious. Chat, tell me, is it wrong or is it right to abandon your children?
Take my side, chat. Chat, take my side.
Just write it. Is it wrong? It's okay. We got one. It's wrong. Okay, we got one that says it's wrong. Like, do you understand? Like,
yeah, where's my egoist?
It's wrong, but the statement has no truth
egoist.
Value.
Give me a W.
Okay.
Give me a W.
Magnus
Egoist.
says it depends. Of course, Magnus says it depends.
Exactly, it depends.
Wrong.
But like, so
and right, miss the thing.
In your ethical system, it would be bad because it would be going against the collective good of survival.
Any ethical system. Almost any ethical system in the world, it's obvious that abandoning your children is negative. It is intensely negative. Well, no, because the problem is that you brought children who aren't cognitive entities, or rather they have stunted cognitive ability, and they cannot consent or take care of themselves. And so what you would do is that you conscript people to taking care of their children.
Okay.
That's altruism by force. You are being forced to do that, right? And I'm perfectly okay with punishing parents that decide to neglect their children. That, to me, that's obvious. That's like
Bro,
duh, of course.
What are we talking about?
Well, I gave you an example of rational self-interest being the wrong decision, and altruism is the decision in this particular situation. And anybody who is rational can come to the conclusion that that is bad, that we don't want to do that.
Well, right now we're not talking about normative ethics. Right now we're talking about what is, not what ought, right? We're talking about what is.
But I'm asking you.
Do you see the distinction between those?
I understand. I understand. I'm trying to pull you out of the theoretical framework and put you into reality world.
I'm talking in reality. The thing is, you're talking about what ought be, and then I'm talking about what is. So what I'm saying in my what is claim,
based off of the what is, right? That what ought to be, right? That's what I'm asking you, right? And obviously there's a problem here. I think, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to put your personal like thoughts into this, but I mean, you sound pretty young. You don't sound like that you've had to deal with somebody depending on you to like financially support them.
Oh yeah, I'm a baby boy.
So like, if there's ever a point where you have to like financially support somebody, you would probably say at that point, it's not ethical to abandon them. Right? If you are obligated, or like it seems to be like you are socially obligated to assist them, you know, like what if your mom gets too old and you have to
right now
change
we're
her
not
diet?
talking about.
Well, think
Right
about
now,
it, right?
I understand your argument.
Your mom gets old, right? And she's gonna be old and not be able to take care of herself. There will come a day that you are likely to have to change her diaper. Right? And she will not be able to do it on her own, but she took care of you. I don't know if do you have a mom? She take care of you?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a mom.
Okay. They took care of you your whole life? Did they feed you, clothe you? They did all of the things? Okay.
But listen, we don't even disagree on this, okay?
Where they're like,
we don't
90 years old, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves. Right?
So I asked you the question, can you show me an example of altruism? And
yeah.
I'm waiting for a response to that.
I just gave it.
What?
Taking care of your kids and taking care of your old mother. That's an altruistic belief. You are sacrificing your time and energy for this, not for the sake of yourself, but for the sake of somebody else.
But would you agree that there's parents that don't take care of their kids?
Yes.
Okay, what is the difference between those parents and the parents that do take care of their kids?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. One of them goes to jail and the other one is free.
Oh my God.
What is
their difference in motivation? What is their motivation difference? What's the distinction between those two parents?
Can you
the parents
just
that take care of their
admit,
kids
is it
and the
wrong
parents
to
that don't.
abandon children? I understand it's not the is, it's an ought. Is it wrong to abandon your children?
Why aren't you answering my question?
Answer the question. Fine, go ahead. What's the question? What's the question? Go
So
ahead.
I'll answer yours and then I'll answer your question and then I'll re-ask mine.
Okay.
My answer is I don't think you should abandon your kids.
Thank you.
Because I think that'll make my life worse. Now my question to you is what is the difference exactly?
So hold on, if there were no consequences, you'd be perfectly okay with abandoning your kids?
If there's no consequences, yeah. Yes, I am a villain. Yes.
Bro, you just admitted that you'd like run as soon as you knocked up a girl. You ain't paying child support. You're not doing anything. You're running for the hills. You're like, no.
What is it?
Never heard from Dad again, bro.
No, so like we don't live in that world. The world we live in is that the consequences that you enact on society eventually come back to you, and that's why I believe in a rational self-interest where if you commit to duty to doing good in your community, it will make your community better, and that will make a better place for you. And that's why I think that you should do good into the world to make the world a better place so that the world can be a better place for you to live in. But yeah, that's what rational self-interest is.
So let me ask you this. What was your question towards me? You had a question.
So my original question was, we were talking about egoism, and we were talking about the self does what the self wants. And essentially, my question to you was, I was trying to figure out if you could find any examples where the self doesn't do what the self wants. And my question to you basically went down to what's the difference between parents that do take care of their kids and parents that don't take care of their kids. And the distinction I see there is that
one of them is like a terrible person that is like a largely reprehensible individual across the entire world under the basis that they're making life worse for an unconsenting individual, right? They have created something and they have seen no responsibility for their actions. And we, as a group of people, come to the conclusion this is wrong. And so when a person does this, they go to jail. They go to jail, my dude, as opposed to the one that does not, right? But even if there was no consequence, it's still wrong from a moral aspect. That's obvious.
Bro, I don't understand what we're disagreeing on. Like, we're both consequentialists. I mean, arguably you are a utilitarian, but we're both consequentialists. We both want a better society. And we're
Do
both
you
willing
think
to make
abandoning
laws.
your children obviously makes a worse society?
Agreed. And that's why I'm with you
Okay,
with that.
then we don't want to abandon our children.
But what I'm looking for is not about what ought to be in like law, because my argument's essentially just trying to defend the concept of rational self-interest and egoism. I'm trying to look for an example of when the self can't do something the self wants. If you think about every single example of anything you've ever done, the reason you do that thing is because you prefer to do that thing. You want to eat ice cream? You ate ice cream because you wanted to. Why did you go to the gym? Because you want to put on some muscles. Now, you have a little more work to do, but like the rest of us, we're out here grinding. And the whole idea is that we're just basically doing the things that we prefer to do on a scale, on a hierarchy of things that we prefer. So that's all I'm saying. And I don't think there's anything controversial or weird about that. I think it's very, very commonsensical to say something like that. Thank you. I get a W from one guy.
Tuss. All right. Well, do you want to walk away on that W, or do you want to continue? Do you have any other questions?
Hell yeah,
for
I want
me?
to continue.
Right.
I'll take 10 up. Well, what do you disagree? Do you disagree with egoism? But I think it would make your life so much simpler.
I need to read up more on egoism, but I still think my individual utilitarian arguments make more sense. It seems to fit more puzzle pieces to me.
I think if you grounded utilitarianism in egoism, it would be a lot stronger basis. Because you're basically starting at a point where everything starts with the individual. And I know individualism, controversial subject, blah, blah. But I think that if you ground the idea of why are you alive? You are alive because you choose to be alive. Whether that's free will, determinism, doesn't matter. The point is you are alive because you chose to be alive. And this is the grounding of egoism. This is the idea that you do things.
I will need more time to read up on egoism, yes.
Okay.
I don't know a whole lot about it.
Okay. Yeah.
If you have a book,
I think it's just a good
I'll read
grounding.
it. If you have a book, I'm actually between books. I'll read it.
True. Well, I read everything online, so.
Bro, read more books, man.
I know.
You learn a lot more. Trust me. You realize how dumb
I
everybody
know. The
else
Stanford
is.
Encyclopedia. It's a tough one, but.
Okay. You got anything else for me, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to hog up too much more time. Depends if anybody else wants to talk, but like, I think that a corollary of egoism is consequentialism and
Is there anybody
determinism.
that even wants to talk right now? No one's hand is up. Anybody's hand want to come up? Anybody? Yeah, looks like we got one. Yeah, we got one right away. Yep.
But you're cock blocking me. Come on, dude.
Well, okay. Listen. If you want to continue, let's continue. No big deal. It's not a big deal. It's okay.
Okay.
If you want to continue,
we'll continue for a little bit longer so we can talk.
Okay.
Okay, so I see consequentialism and determinism as corollary to egoism. So I guess I'll just make the case for that real quick. So if we agree that the self does what the self wants, basically this can go straight to consequentialism, which means premise 1, the self always acts to achieve what it values most in the moment, and this is the egoist axiom. And then premise 2 is what the self values most are the outcomes or the consequences of the actions.
Are you a psychological egoist or are you an ethical egoist?
Psychological.
Okay.
But I think that I believe that you will be mentally healthier if you accept what you would call, I guess, the shadow. Not to be cringy.
I mean, I think generally speaking, people act within their own self-interest, but sometimes that's not the case, right? There's no like black and white term to like complicated social metrics. And I think like a fabulous example is my parent example. Like of course you're obligated to take care of your children. And even though it may be in your rational self-interest to run for the hills because you knocked up some girl, that doesn't mean, therefore you shouldn't, or that you should do that thing. It's wrong, obviously, right? It's wrong. We know it's wrong.
So I think for the vast majority of people, it's against their self-interest to abandon their kids. And I think this is because parents have a strong emotional attachment to their kids.
No, No, not at all. There are so many people that abandon their kids as soon as they realize their girlfriend is pregnant or whoever they had sex with was pregnant. They run for the hills as soon as the girl says,
Okay.
"I don't want to get an abortion," and then they never hear from them again. And the kid lives their entire life with a kid with no father, right? And there's all sorts of negative social outcomes as a result of that, right? And that's
Sure,
again
sure,
the
that's-
rational self-interest of the father to do that.
I don't think it is. Okay, I mean,
No,
I guess it depends
is.
on
For
who
example,
you're
what if the
hanging
father
around.
was married and they got a prostitute pregnant? It is in their rational self-interest to get the hell out of there.
Aren't you kind of deciding what his interest is? What if he wants to have that kid? How do you know?
What I'm saying it's logical to infer that would be within their rational self-interest, right? Let's say they have 3 kids at home, a wife, and they got a prostitute pregnant. They will ruin their entire life if they don't run for the hills.
I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, but yeah, it could ruin your life. But it could also be it also could be a decision that the father makes to decide to, stay with the prostitute and have 2 families. I mean, it's a stupid decision.
Well,
but
no. I mean,
perhaps
you can't.
he prefers
To be honest, you need to get an abortion.
Okay.
and never do that again. Never do it again.
Okay, dude.
But that's just me though.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't.
I mean, I
disagree with
wouldn't have
you,
even
but-
been caught with the prostitute getting her pregnant. That's just
But
stupid.
hold on.
Anyway.
Aren't you kind of admitting right here that you're agreeing that that's what's in your interest is getting the abortion? That's what's in your rational self-interest?
That's one, yeah, sure. It's totally rational self-interest, sure.
Okay, yeah.
But you
And
understand
you don't see a
there-
problem with that.
But there are things where it is not the rational self-interest is the move. It's an altruistic interest. The world isn't revolving around you. It's around other people as well. Other people are involved by your actions.
So can you give me a good reason why someone should care about other people other than themselves?
I gave it the parents, your mom, being too old. These are examples that you ought take care of them. You are dutifully obligated from a moral perspective to take care of them. And that is not one culture, but many cultures over the courses of thousands and thousands of years. So it's a lot older and it's a lot more guttural than you think. And I think right now you're still young and so you haven't dealt with any of this, but you will one day.
Well, I don't disagree with you that it's very intuitive, right? I don't disagree with that, but is what's intuitive moral?
What? It can be, or it might not be. So there needs to be reasons. And you already came to the reason that it is moral.
Well, I already told you I don't believe in morality. But I agree with you that it can't be intuitive. It needs to have some other justification. And what I'm trying to ask you is, what is that justification? It's not something that's intuitive. It's not something that we collectively decide. It has to be justified by some external source.
You haven't been talking about morality this whole time?
No, I've been talking about psychological egoism.
But we've been
Bro.
talking about oughts for the past 30-40 minutes.
No, you brought odds into it.
Yes, I did, but no, that means
Yes,
that
you
you
did.
saying that we ought, that means you are arguing a moral imperative.
Bro, I stepped into your box for like 2 seconds. I stepped in your box for like 2 seconds to answer that question. All I wanted to know was, could you disapprove my axiom?
you.
And that's what we were talking about for the last 30 minutes.
Bro, you're killing me. You do believe
Okay,
in
so this
morals.
isn't-
You have morals.
So, practical morals, right? Not intrinsic morals, practical morals.
That doesn't matter. You have morals.
Yes, it does. It does matter. You understand the difference between objective morality and, I don't know, subjective morality? Like, you understand the distinction between these things. There's a difference.
That's fine. That is an irrelevant distinction. You believe in morals. That's why I'm freaking out right now.
But I believe in a morality that you wouldn't consider morality.
That means you believe in morality.
But it's such a vague word that it almost has no
What?
meaning if we extend it out to my use of it. If we extend it out to my use of it, it's so vague it has
What
no
is
meaning.
your use of morals?
Because you can't say something is moral if it's either intrinsic or either practical. Because at that point, it loses all the point. When we talk about morality, we're talking about something that's intrinsic. Do you disagree with that? When you say something's right or wrong.
When I see if something is right or wrong, I'm sorry, what was the scenario?
So when you're okay, so leaving your kids, is that right or wrong?
It's wrong.
Why is it wrong?
Because you're abandoning a non-consenting individual into the world and making their life worse indefinitely.
Why is that wrong?
Suffering? Unneeded suffering? It lowers their lifespan? It lowers their quality of living standard? Quantifiably?
So why is suffering wrong?
Huh? It's not that suffering is right or wrong. It's that it's entropic.
Exactly. It's not that suffering is right or wrong. Suffering just is. And that's what I'm getting towards. When you get low enough to the base layer, you essentially find that things are what they are.
Okay, let me ask you this. Ought we live in a society that has more or less suffering?
Less suffering.
Why?
Because I want to. See, and that's the justification, right? The justification right there is rational self-interest. And if you get low enough, it will just come down to pleasure. Why are you alive?
You have a very
pleasure.
interesting brain, Anarchiosis.
I guess so. I guess so.
I don't know what else I gotta say to you at this point. I really don't.
Okay.
What you got for me?
I mean, determinism. Do we agree on determinism?
Yes.
Okay. My determinism is pretty simple. It's just you're gonna do what you want to do, and because you're gonna do what you're gonna want to do, you're determined to do what you want to do. Pretty simple, right? Now you would obviously have to accept my axiom that the self does what the self wants, but it's a very clear bridge there.
I don't think that's determinism.
That is determinism.
No.
Yeah. I mean, what do you consider determinism? You're such a giggly, googly, goggly.
All right.
That's what you are.
All right. Well, explain it. All right. Let's say that you were going to throw a ball and you knew the exact angle, how hard you're throwing it, and the density of the ball. Could you, in theory, mathematically know exactly where that ball is going to land?
Yes.
Very well. So, should you have these variables, all of the variables necessary to determine where it lands, it consistently lands in that direction if it's thrown the same way with the same variables. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say, for example, that I was going to throw a ball, but instead of throwing the ball on, say, a flat surface where it can bounce, we introduce like a rock or a boulder as a variable where it causes a difference in the angle, right? But in theory, say you took account for the angle of this rock and its initial angle, you would, in theory, also know where the ball would land, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So adding variables to the equation does not stop it from still being deterministic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about mathematical determinism, basically.
Okay, well, it gets more interesting because if we had, for example, a supercomputer that was able to hold all of the variables of the universe, in theory, you would know where everything would go in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? In a deterministic way.
Yep.
Okay, well, so that's what determinism is.
True, exactly. And that perfectly maps onto my deterministic proof for the self, basically.
Okay.
So mine's a lot more simplistic than yours because you take into like the entire universe, and I agree with that. But,
but that's what determinism is. That's what it describes.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's multiple ways of getting to determinism to logically deduce determinism. And I basically took a really simple route of just saying, I have one, well, this is just human determinism, right? But there's also, mathematical determinism like you basically laid out.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I just think that humans are determined to do certain things based on if you account for all the variables. If you account for all the variables, you will always have the same situation replayed over and over. So, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. But no, my deterministic proof does cover that, but it's just a different way of doing it.
Okay.
But yeah, listen, we agree on determinism. We agree on consequentialism, sort of.
Does Keynesianism make more sense to you now after reading that book or no?
No. Because
none at all.
No, I learned history for sure.
Oh my goodness!
But the difference is we have
who started the 2008 collapse?
The banks.
Thank you. That's what I thought. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Oh yeah, get your giggles in. Your hit against private, whatever. I think it's a little
That's
more
a win in my book.
But...
It's the fact that an Austrian is willing to acknowledge that. It's really it's very good.
But what you won't like is that I'm going to say the banks made extended credit lines that they couldn't realistically do in a free market. And you'll probably disagree with me on that. But yeah. But yeah, dude, I think we had a good conversation.
Yeah,
I want you to look up egoism. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Appreciate that. Egoism. Look it up. I think you would make a great egoist. I think you would love it. Your ethical system is interesting.
Okay. Well, I'll have to read.
But yeah, we agree on.
You gotta send me your you gotta send me what you read to understand egoism, or at least so far what you've read, so that way I can read more than you.
Lol, yeah.
I just met somebody.
Beat my ass in egoism. And you got to send me more books, as book daddy, as somebody called you in chat. Book daddy.
Right. Do you want another book?
No, you don't.
No, I'm gonna send you another book.
Don't send me any of those
I have so many
books,
credits,
bro.
dude. I have so many credits.
Oh my god, it was like listening to a 10-hour lecture. It was so awful.
You hated it?
No, I didn't hate it. It was just stiff at certain times.
Okay. All right.
Listen, I'm not a big history fan.
This one's less like economically oriented. It's called Fear by Bob Woodward.
Fear? What's it? Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. What's it about?
It's about Donald Trump's presidency. Do you know who Bob Woodward is?
Oh my god. Donald Woodward? No, who is that?
Bob Woodward.
Bob Woodward.
He was one of the main journalists that uncovered the Watergate scandal.
Okay. So it's an in-depth look on his perspective on Trump and the Watergate scandal.
Bob Woodward, he gets direct access to the president and as well as other high-level officials that he is able to get a lot of interview and a lot of information that people wouldn't normally get access to.
Okay, interesting.
Would you like this book? It's more entertaining than Austerity by Mark Bliss.
I mean, okay, listen. If you send it to me, I'll get around to it eventually.
All right, hold on.
But
Let me stop sharing. I'm gonna quickly stop sharing the Discord chat for a second,
so you can protect my identity.
so I
Thank
can
you very
protect
much.
your identity. Hold on, give me 1 second. Let me see here. Where is it?
Thank you.
I'm
Book
just gonna
Daddy is on the
quietly hide
case.
that for just a second. Right, I'll put it right back.
Yes,
Just give me a
sir.
sec. I'll put it right back.
My private library.
And I'm gonna, let's see here. I gotta pull up Anarchiosis. Well, let me take a look here. Did you delete?
Don't worry,
your,
Magnus.
Did you
You're going up
delete,
soon.
Did you delete your email?
Nope, same email.
Ah, okay, it's right here. So let me gift you Fear by Bob Woodward.
He's giving me a book.
Hold on, let me
I'm gonna
see.
read it. You want to talk to me?
How do I gift this? I need to know how to gift this. More options.
You figured it out once. I'm sure you can do it again.
Give as a gift. Okay, here we go. So this is your email. And Anarchiosis first invented today. Enjoy the book. Let me know if you want me to read a particular book. I'll read it. If it's on Audible, I'll read it.
Okay.
There you go, buddy. You got a book.
Thanks,
Enjoy.
man.
Yeah, it's a really good book. Fabulous book. Really, really good book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Entertaining. I like entertaining. I like thrillers. This sounds like a thriller. Political thriller.
Okay. Cool.
It's not. Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess you can take me down. You can talk to this dude.
Okay. All right. Great. Good talk, man. I really enjoyed it.
Peace, bro.